Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation on the CFP exam. Thank you for participating and showing your dedication to furthering your educational path to become a financial planning professional. My name is Pauline Anthony. I'm the Director of Examinations at FP Canada. In that role, I oversee our certification exams and corresponding exam policies with an approach utilizing best practices for high-stakes testing programs. I've worked in professional testing for more than 2 decades, with a history of overseeing the planning, development, execution, monitoring, and quality control for all components of exams in professional environments. Presenting with me today is Veronique Shanks. Veronique has worked in the financial industry for 20 years with a focus on investment and insurance products. Veronique started volunteering with FP Canada in 2009 and is now a contracted technical content expert with FP Canada. Otherwise, she's a busy mom of 2 teenage daughters and a big golden doodle named Nugget. Naomi Sinclair has administered exams for the past 6 years at a multitude of organizations and is passionate about standardizing candidate exam experiences and quality control. We do have a lot of material to cover today and might not spend as much time as you would like on a particular slide. But don't worry, the webinar will be available for your review in approximately 1 week. Let's take a look at today's agenda. Today's webinar will provide you with details about exam format, exam day preparation, the CFP exam structure and scoring, the review of a sample case narrative and its set of constructed response questions, the practice exam, and common mistakes and tips. Let's dive in with a look at the exam format and registration with Naomi.
FP Canada offers online proctoring and in-person proctoring at test centers for candidates writing the CFP exam. When completing your exam registration application, you will be asked to select your preferred exam format and location. FP Canada's test administration partner, Measure Learning, administers the in-person exams, and its ProctorU division administers the online proctored exams. Please be advised that in February, the exams will only be available through online proctoring. The options for either online proctoring or in-person proctoring provides candidates with flexibility and convenience and ensures all eligible candidates have access to write the exam. Before deciding between an in-person and online proctored exam, there are some things you'll want to consider. If you're considering online proctoring, consider if you can meet the specific technical and system requirements, as well as ensure that your testing environment will remain quiet and free of distractions during the exam. We'll be discussing these technical requirements in greater detail later in the presentation. This information is also available in the guide to the CFP exam and on the FP Canada website. In considering how you would like to write your exam, it's important to know that you as the candidate are responsible for meeting the technology requirements to write the exam via online proctoring and that there are no exceptions for these requirements. Candidates who do not meet the requirements have the option to secure the appropriate equipment or write at an in-person test center or register for a future exam sitting. A list of currently available test center locations can be found in the exam application, but note that some locations may not be available for every exam. Test centers may also have their own specific requirements, and these will be communicated to you on your admission ticket, something we'll discuss later in our presentation. If you choose to switch your exam format during the registration period, for instance, if you selected in-person testing and want to switch to online proctoring, you may do so by updating your exam application in your FP Canada dashboard. Now I'll take us through some details about the CFP exam administration, including the FP Canada guide to the CFP examination and important exam day information. Exam security is extremely important to FP Canada. Good security measures protect our content and the integrity of our exam processes. But we sometimes hear from candidates that they were surprised by the rules of the examination. You should be expecting a strict environment with procedures and rules. You will be required to sign in, provide current identification, and adhere to the examination day policies. The FP Canada Guide to the CFP Examination, which is the administrative guide to the examination experience, contains information on what to expect before, during, and after the exam. The guide can be found at the FP Canada website. When registering for the CFP examination, if you haven't done so already, you'll be required to sign off during the application process that you have read, understood, and agree to abide by the policies and procedures set out in the guide to the examination. Before exam day, you can review the FP Canada study resources available in your FP Canada dashboard. Although we do not provide recommendations to specific study guides, books, or courses, you will find a list of all of FP Canada's study resources on this page. It's the gateway to the practice exam, sample questions, this webinar, and other study tips and resources. For candidates taking an online proctored exam, as we've already mentioned, you must ensure that your computer meets the technology and system requirements. This includes having a functioning microphone and web camera, downloading the compatible internet browser, Guardian browser, having a compatible monitor, and an activated and compatible operating system. It is also strongly recommended that you use a personal computer for the examination. If you are using a corporate computer, that is your work computer, you'll want to review the additional guidance found in the FP Canada Guide to the Examination to ensure your computer can install programs. If you choose to write with your work computer, we strongly recommend contacting your IT department to review the additional guidance. Note that there is no exception for the technical requirements and that candidates are responsible for testing their technology and system requirements in advance of exam day. We recommend that you access and use the examination tutorial to become more familiar with the software interface that you'll encounter at the test center. A link to the examination tutorial is available through your FP Canada dashboard and on the FP Canada website, and in the FP Canada Guide to the CFP Examination. You can follow the link, which will lead to a short online practice version of the actual exam software. This simulated version allows you the opportunity to familiarize yourself with the software environment, which should add a level of comfort on exam day. This screen shows you how a multiple choice question will appear on the exam. It includes a short client scenario and the options to choose from. At the top of the screen, you will see your progress. Here we are on question 3 of 15. To get a pop-up of acronyms and equations, click on the I in the blue circle on the top bar of the page. With your cursor, you can navigate through the questions by moving from one of the question boxes to another. You can also bookmark a question by clicking on the bookmark box in case you want to go back to it later. Here we can see that question 3 has been bookmarked. There's also a notes section that can be accessed by clicking on the clipboard icon at the top of the navigation bar. Here you may add notes to help you think through the correct answer. These notes will not be reviewed or graded by our scoring panel. To change font size in the software, click on the font icon located just below the navigation bar. To increase size, click on the large A. To decrease the size, click on the small a. This slide shows a constructed response case, its corresponding question, and response template. For those that have previously written an FP Canada exam, note that a separate physical booklet with the case studies will not be provided. The case study narratives will be provided directly in the exam software. For the constructed response questions, you will need to supply the answer to the question and type it in the response template provided. The response template is the placeholder for your answer and is often in a table format. Templates are very specific and are designed to help you answer the question in the format required. Additional examples of constructed response templates can be found on your FP Canada dashboard. You can save your work as you go, but for peace of mind, do know that the system does autosave every few seconds. Once you have completed the question, you can move to the next question by clicking on the Go to the Next Question bar found at the bottom of the screen. To actually experience the exam software and its features firsthand, we recommend you use the free exam tutorial or purchase the CFP Examination practice exam. At any time, you can go back and review and change your answers. Everything can be edited up until you submit your exam or until your 2 hours for the session has run out. To submit your exam, click on the Submit Exam button on the top right-hand corner, but only click on this button if you are ready to submit. Candidates are responsible for meeting all technology requirements for online proctoring and installing the Guardian browser before their exam. Candidates must ensure their operating system is activated and compatible with the exam software. There are no exceptions for these requirements. Candidates who do not meet these requirements have the option to secure the appropriate equipment right at an in-person test center or register for a future examination sitting. An unstable internet connection is one of the most common technology problems candidates experience on exam day. Therefore, it is strongly recommended that candidates connect to the internet with a wired connection via Ethernet cable. A wired internet connection provides a direct and stable internet connection, which will significantly increase the strength and stability of your internet connection. Please be advised that candidates who attempt to write from their work or office must ensure that their workplace internet connection does not block the ProctorU connection. If you're writing an online proctored exam, you'll need to prepare your testing environment in advance of exam day. It's your responsibility as the candidate to ensure your testing environment is and will remain comfortable, quiet, and free of distractions during the scheduled examination. In addition to having a private, indoor, and quiet location, you will need to ensure your environment meets the following requirements. You must have a clear desk or tabletop. You may be asked by the proctor to remove anything from your desk that is not permanently affixed. The areas beneath your desk and chair should be clear. The walls immediately behind and in front of where you will be seated are clear. Landlines and non-required electronics and any security or recording devices in the room should be turned off. Other household members should be informed of the examination date and time and will remain quiet during the examination and will not enter the exam room. The proctor will confirm that all requirements are met on exam day. If you fail to set up your testing environment appropriately or have interruptions during the exam, the proctor may terminate your testing session. Full details on setting up your test environment can be found in the CFP exam guide and on our website. You'll also want to ensure your computer station is prepared at least 30 minutes prior to the scheduled connection time to reduce potential connection issues. Again, it is mandatory that all candidates test their exam day computer prior to the exam date. If you are unable to access your exam due to a failure to complete any computer readiness checks prior to the exam, you may be deemed a no-show for the exam. The first 15 minutes of the book time will be for the onboarding process with a proctor from ProctorU. You should begin the login process at least 10 minutes prior to the scheduled exam time. Note that there may be a wait time for an onboarding associate during busy times. You should stay connected if a delay occurs. Any onboarding delay will not impact the time allocated for exam writing, as the exam timer only begins once you've started the exam. If you fail to log in during the first 30 minutes of your appointment, you may be deemed a no-show and may not be permitted to write the exam. Your admission ticket includes information including your ID needed to log in to the secure exam software, details for setting or resetting your password, and for writers at the in-person test centers, any information regarding the location of your test center, and specific health and safety requirements. If you're writing at an in-person test center, we recommend that you try to visit the test center and the specific room location ahead of time so that you are better prepared on the exam day. If you are unable to find the room on exam day, look for the nearest information desk or for signage which should point you to the exam room. For online proctored exams, if you're having trouble setting up your station, confirming preparedness, or connecting to the proctor, contact ProctorU Assessment Support directly. Their live chat is available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Contact details for ProctorU can be found in the guide to the CFP exam or on our website. If technical issues occur on exam day, alert the proctor immediately, and they will be able to assist you. At in-person test centers, you can alert your proctor by raising your hand. During online proctored exams, you can use the chat feature to connect to your proctor directly. A frequent question we get asked is, what can I bring with me on exam day? On exam day, only certain items are permitted at your desk space. For both in-person and online proctored exams, candidates will not be permitted to keep possessions at their writing stations and will be required to remove them to a designated storage area. You will be required to keep your admission ticket on your desk at the in-person test center, but if writing online, you'll be required to move the admission ticket out of arm's reach after the check-in process, and note that you should not write anything on your admission ticket. You are permitted to use the FP Canada approved calculator for the exam. Only specific calculators are permitted, however, and these are listed in the FP Canada Guide to the CFP exam. For in-person exams, scrap paper may be used to make notes or perform draft calculations. This will be provided by the proctor and will be collected at the end of the exam session. For online proctored exams, candidates are permitted to use a handheld whiteboard no larger than 8.5 by 11 inches and a fine point dry erase marker. You will need to erase any notes or calculations in the proctor's view at the end of the exam. Under no circumstances will you be able to keep your cell phones or any other electronic devices other than the approved calculator at your writing station. And please note that if your phone rings during the exam, you may be subject to sanctions, so please ensure it is turned off when it is in storage. Only religious headwear is allowed, so you will be asked to remove any other headwear such as a baseball cap or toque. The CFP exam is a 6-hour exam divided into 3 2-hour sessions. For in-person exam candidates, the exam starts at 9 a.m. sharp unless otherwise specified on your admission ticket. You are required to arrive 45 minutes prior to the exam, so by 8:15 in the morning. The in-person exams are scheduled to end at 1:30 p.m., and candidates are required to remain seated for the last 15 minutes of the exam. For online proctored exams, please view your admission ticket or log in to the Measure Learning Yardstick platform to confirm your start time. Once the exam begins, for both in-person and online proctored exams, you will not be permitted to take breaks, even bathroom breaks. A 30-minute break is scheduled for in-person exams, and it is advised that you bring snacks or a lunch with you for the break. For online proctored exams, you'll have a 15-minute scheduled break, followed by 5 minutes to resecure your exam room. After a total of 20 minutes has expired from the start of the break, the exam time will automatically resume, so it's important that you do not take longer than a 15-minute break. Now, in the following slides, Paulette will talk about the CFP examination and share some information about the exam itself, including the CFP examination blueprint and the concept of complexity.
The FP Canada Standards Council Competency Profile for CFP certification is the criteria for the exam. It provides a summary of tasks that CFP professionals would do in everyday practice and illustrates really the multidimensional nature of financial planning. It details the abilities that a CFP professional must possess and represents not just the tasks, but also incorporates the job-related skills, knowledge, attitudes, and judgments required for competent performance by members of the financial planning profession. This is a key document in your preparation for the CFP exam, as each exam score point is linked to a competency statement and is what is tested on the exam. The full competency profile document, which is found at our website, provides a detailed description and example of each competency statement, and also includes competency profile matrix listing all of the competencies and professional skills, which we'll look at next here. This page, shown on the right here, details 2 collection competencies in the financial management area, describing the tasks of collects information regarding clients' assets and liabilities, and collects information regarding the client's current and projected cash flow. These descriptions will help you better understand the competencies and how they may be tested on the CFP exam. You can use this information to focus your preparation and identify gaps in your competence and knowledge, and use that to research to help fill in those gaps. The matrix of the competency statements is included in the full competency profile document and lists all the competency statements as found in the full competency profile. Although the matrix may appear small on this slide, You will find it more legible within the website. We're only sharing the first page of the matrix here. Within the competency profile document, you'll have access to the full matrix, of course. So we'll take a closer look at this document on the next slide. Across the top, the matrix is divided into columns for the 3 financial planning functions of 1, collection, 2, analysis, and 3, recommendation. In preparing a financial plan, client details need to be collected. Details can include information about the client's family, client goals and objectives, as well as numbers like RSP values or debt balances. The collected information is then analyzed to determine the client's current situation, as well as any opportunities, risks, or concerns. You'll notice on the matrix that collection activities are divided into 2 columns. The competencies assigned as quantitative information deal with the numbers like asset values or income amounts. The competencies assigned as qualitative information deal with the softer facts, such as the client's investment objectives or attitudes about retirement. Analysis activities are also divided into 2 columns. Assesses the client's situation under column 2.1 and considers and evaluates strategies under column 2.2. Recommendation activities are shown in 1 column. Develops recommendations to help optimize the client's situation. The competencies are sorted into rows for the fundamental financial planning practices and the financial planning areas, and those headers appear on the left margin of the matrix across the 2 pages of the document. The competencies listed in fundamental financial planning practices are tasks that are really common to all of the financial planning areas. These are the abilities that deal with pulling everything together from all the different areas to come up with a client-specific financial plan. The statements of competency overall are assigned to the most applicable financial planning area of the 6 areas listed here. But of course, many areas overlap, which is not surprising given the integrative nature of financial planning. I really do encourage you to use the matrix and the entire competency profile document in your preparation. Work through each competency to understand the expectation of it and how you can apply your knowledge to demonstrate the specific competency. Remember, application of that knowledge is key. A listing of the professional skills included in the competency profile can also be found in the matrix and within the competency profile document. These are the skills that speak to acting as a professional with clients and colleagues. They outline the professional responsibility to clients. The professional skills are sorted under columns of professional conduct, critical thinking, interpersonal, communication, and collaboration skills. Candidates are expected to have proficiency in the professional skills included within the competency profile. Those competencies are assigned as professional skills will be integrated into at least 25% of the examination questions, and at least 10% of the CFP exam will integrate competencies from the professional conduct section of the professional skills. To help illustrate this point, let's take a look here at collaboration skill 503. It reads, recognizes when to refer to qualified professionals to provide the necessary expertise. When a client may be seeking the CFP professional's advice on estate planning and the drafting of a new will, for example, the CFP professional would be expected to refer those clients to a lawyer. Some questions may also have an ethical component and could test issues such as client confidentiality, insider trading, or unsuitable investment recommendations. The CFP exam blueprint details the structure of the exam, how the sections of the competency profile are weighted on the exam, and can be found as well at our website. The CFP exam has competency-based questions, which means you'll need to apply your knowledge and skills in resolving a range of different financial planning issues for clients. The exam consists of both multiple choice, and constructed response questions. A larger portion of the exam is made up of constructed response questions, which require you to provide answers in your own words, as opposed to selecting the correct answer from a list. Each question on the exam has been given either a basic, moderate, or high complexity assignment. The level of complexity for an exam question increases if more knowledge is needed, or if there are more variables to consider, or if you need to integrate and factor in a number of different elements. Since the CFP exam is designed to assess candidates' ability to apply financial planning knowledge to realistic financial planning situations for clients with more complex financial planning needs, there will be more moderate and high complexity questions on the CFP exam. The blueprint includes a description of the type of questions that may be encountered at each complexity level. The CFP exam blueprint details the range of weightings used when creating our exams. Each question on the exam tests competency statements from the competency profile, so it's tied to a function and a financial planning area, and is given a complexity assignment. For example, if a question asks you to determine the client's cash flow shortfall in the event of 12 months of disability, that question could involve an analysis function in the insurance and risk management area and may be assigned a moderate level of complexity depending on the extent of the information to be analyzed. Section A on this blueprint shows the weighting of the financial planning functions. There is a larger focus on planning tasks involved with analysis competencies than collection and recommendation competencies for the CFP exam. Section B shows the weighting of the financial planning areas and confirms that all financial planning components are tested, which emphasizes the importance of reviewing all topic areas when preparing to write the exam. And Section C shows the complexity weightings and confirms that there are more moderate and high complexity questions on the CFP exam than basic complexity questions. Now let's take a look at the financial planning body of knowledge. Technical knowledge is the first step for competent performance. The financial planning body of knowledge is essential to the demonstration of competence in the fundamental financial planning practices and the financial planning areas of the competency profile. You must first have the knowledge before you can apply it in an appropriate manner to a particular client situation. Knowledge around human behavior, decision-making, and relationships is important for the demonstration of professional skills. Appropriate levels of knowledge are required for the financial planning tasks and skills to be done. The financial planning body of knowledge can be found at the FP Canada website. It outlines the required 12 knowledge topics, and each knowledge topic has several subsections. Please keep in mind that just knowing the information is not sufficient for competent performance. You need to know how to use this information in a client situation to demonstrate competency. Let's look at some examples of how the body of knowledge supports the ability to do the task outlined in the competency statements. In the competency profile, the estate planning competency 1.120 in the collection area reads collects information and documents that impact estate planning strategies. To do this task and demonstrate this competency, you may need to have technical knowledge about the importance of wills. But you'll also then need to know how to use this knowledge, applying it to a client situation in order to demonstrate this task. Here's another example. Competency 2.202, which is an analysis competency in the financial management area, reads considers potential credit and debt management strategies. Depending upon the client's circumstances, you may need to be knowledgeable about revolving credit, cash and investments, or perhaps rental income for investors. Then use this knowledge to assess the financial management options which are appropriate for the client. Veronique will now talk about exam prep.
So how do you use this information to prepare for the exam and help achieve on your success on the exam? Preparation will be important for your success. As already presented in this webinar, know what to expect on exam day and what is expected of you on exam day. The first step in preparation is to become familiar with the exam. A clear understanding of the type of questions in the exam structure, and its components will help you to develop a plan to prepare for the exam. You can get this information from the Guide to Examinations, the Competency Profile, the Exam Blueprint, and other supplemental materials, and of course, this webinar. Develop a study plan that provides adequate time for reviewing items related to financial planning topics and tasks detailed in the Competency Profile. Understand the exam structure as detailed with the Exam Blueprint. Allow sufficient time to adequately review the core competency areas of collection, analysis, and recommendations for all of the financial planning components. This exam tests a wide range of material, so do not leave your studying to the last minute. I cannot stress enough how important the competency profile is to your preparation. It is the basis for the development of the exam content, and each exam score point is linked to one of the competency statements included therein. Cross-reference the competencies and related knowledge with your education materials or other learning and preparation resources. As you consider the criteria and materials, ask yourself how the concepts and competencies could be tested or assessed. Think about the competency statement as exam questions. In the course of your study, try to identify questions that could possibly be asked on the test. Try integrating ideas from your readings, lectures, and notes that could be used to develop practice questions. Work on financial planning case studies. If you are working in the financial services field, think of client situations that you have dealt with and the tasks that were involved. Practice exams can be a valuable additional tool as a part of your exam preparation and learning, but should not be the only tool in your exam prep. One recommendation is to practice using FP Canada's practice exam, as well as the sample questions available on the website.
Not everyone passes the CFP exam on their first attempt. In preparing for a rewrite, here are some helpful tips. Be sure to review the diagnostic feedback from your previous attempt to understand your areas of strength and weakness. Spend more time preparing and studying in those function areas and topic areas that showed weaker results for you. You may also find it helpful to revisit the competency profile and exam blueprint as you review your diagnostic feedback and as you prepare for the exam. Allow enough time to implement a good study program. Plan your study prep time and incorporate it into your weekly routine. Do not leave it all to the last week before the exam. Think about your previous study habits and what worked well for you. Perhaps try some different methods, like a study group with colleagues. And of course, prepare and practice using competency-based material like financial planning case studies. Veronique will now take us through FP Canada's exam scoring process.
Once you complete your exam, it's our job to get them scored. It's a big process, and yes, it takes time to get it done right. When constructed response questions are created, a detailed scoring key is developed, which breaks each question into separate scorable marks and provides a complete list of correct answers. This ensures that each candidate response is marked using the same guidelines, parameters, and standards. Once exam day is over, the CFP exams are scored by a select group of specially trained practicing CFP professionals from across Canada who volunteer to be part of our scoring team. Each exam response is scored independently by at least 2 members of the team to ensure that marking is fair, accurate, and consistent. If the scores differ on the assignment of a mark, the answer will be rescored by a scoring team leader. We also rescore the complete exam for any candidate who is within a few points of either passing or failing the exam. We want to confirm the accuracy of the marks we are giving to borderline candidates. We also assess candidates' answers in terms of ethics. Any concerns about potential ethic breaches are flagged by the markers. These flags are then reviewed to assess the gravity of the situation, and communications are sent to candidates to remind them of the importance of abiding by the rules included in the FP Canada Standards Council Standards of Professional Responsibility. The CFP examination is a pass or fail examination. It is not about a number. The goal of the CFP exam is to determine if you meet the requirements of competence to earn the CFP designation. We use psychometric methodologies to determine what the pass mark of the exam is based on the expected standards. The process we use ensures every exam candidate is measured equitably and fairly, even though each exam contains different questions. This is not a bell curve examination, but what is referred to as criterion reference examination, where the level of competence expected is consistent from one examination to the other. All candidates have to meet the established standard, which is the same for each exam. This methodology is commonly accepted practice in the credentialing field for high-stakes certification exams. It allows FP Canada the confidence that every CFP professional is meeting the same industry-defined standard for competence. We are now going to review a sample constructed response question. There are sample questions that can be accessed through your portal. They are useful tools to help you prepare for the examination. So please go access them to review and familiarize yourself even more with the types of questions to expect on the CFP exam. Our intent in the next few slides is to let you see what a constructed response question looks like, the type of questions that are asked, the completion of the response template, and how the question is scored. This case narrative presents Dylan, a young doctor with debt. In this opening part of the case, we are given information about Dylan's financial situation and income. As the case narrative continues, it provides information about his assets, debts, investments, his insurance policies, and beneficiary designations. Details about Dylan's will are also presented. On this final narrative slide, we also learn about Dylan's spending habits. Remember, his goal is to retire at 60. Dylan has met with Tony, a CFP professional, to help him with opening an investment account. After the case narrative, we have a two-part question. The first part involves identifying Dylan's level of financial sophistication, and the second part involves identifying positive actions Dylan has taken regarding his financial situation. Let's look at these questions now and their response templates. This is the first question based on the presented case narrative. List 3 factors that suggest Dylan has a low level of financial sophistication. The response template follows. Here's the response template. This question requires you to list 3 factors that suggest Dylan has a low level of financial sophistication. Each factor is worth 0.5 marks each. If the cell is simply left blank, no mark will be given. Here's the correct sample response. You will notice that though you would only be required to list 3 factors, there are more than 3 correct responses. Now let's see how this response ties to the demonstration of competent performance in doing the task detailed on the competency profile matrix. By correctly answering this question, candidates have demonstrated that they can apply the information given in the case narrative to analyze how Dylan has demonstrated low financial sophistication. You can see that each one of the required tasks is tied to a competency statement from the FP Canada Standards Council Competency Profile for CFP certification. In this example, the competencies are from the collection function in the investment planning area. This question was assigned a basic complexity rating. The correct response would earn a total of 1.5 marks. The next question looks at positive actions that Dylan has already taken concerning his financial situation. Again, it is based on the information provided in the case narrative. Here is a template for the question. The question asks for 3 ways positive actions Dylan has taken concerning his financial situation, and 3 boxes are provided. Please put only 1 answer in each box. Any more than that will not be marked. The correct sample response lists 6 possible correct answers. Any 3 of these would be marked as correct by the scoring team. In marking the exam, only the first 3 answers will be marked. Anything more than that will not be graded. Incorrectly doing the task, the candidate has demonstrated a collection competency and for answering both part 1 and part 2 of the question correctly, earned a total of 3 marks. Again, each mark is tied to a competency statement from the FP Canada Standards Council Competency Profile. There are multiple choice and constructed response sample questions available through your FP Canada dashboard. To access the sample questions, log in to your FP Canada dashboard, click on Exam in the side navigation bar, and select the CFP Exam Sample Study Questions and CFP Exam Sample Constructed Response Case. The sample case questions include a mix of multiple choice and critical response questions, and some will require calculations.
FP Canada offers the FP Canada practice exam for the CFP exam to help you prepare. It can be purchased when you register to write the CFP exam. The CFP exam practice exam offers many benefits. You can become familiar with the type of questions that will be used on the exam. The exam structure and blueprint ratings are similar to those used to build the actual live exam, and you'll get practice and become familiar with using the exam software. Once you complete the CFP exam practice exam, you will self-score your responses using the scoring templates provided. This will allow you to familiarize yourself with the scoring process and understand what is considered a correct answer and why. It does take time to self-score, but it is worth it as it provides you with a very good sense of the structure of the answers and the expectations of the scoring process. With the self-scoring, you'll review the correct answers and their rationales. This also presents you another opportunity to review financial planning material, providing an enhanced study aid. The CFP exam, practice exam, can be written only once, but it can be done over multiple sittings to a maximum time period of 9 hours. I recommend you begin your review of the practice exam early to maximize the value of this tool, and recommend that you allocate time to write it as if you were completing the exam in 3 2-hour sessions, just like the live exam. It's available for $175 plus applicable taxes when purchased with exam registration, or for $200 plus taxes if purchased after you've registered for the exam. And you can access that link through your FP Canada dashboard. The practice exam is refreshed on at least an annual basis, and sometimes more frequently. When you've completed the practice exam and the self-scoring, a diagnostic feedback report will be provided which shows your performance in the various financial planning functions and areas based on the blueprint. The report can help you determine areas where more study and preparation may be required. It can also be accessed for review multiple times up until exam day. You will also get the answers to all questions on the practice exam and the rationales explaining the correct and incorrect answers. Although these are different questions than the ones on your actual exam, the practice exam does use retired questions from previous live exams. The CFP exam practice exam is designed to meet the test blueprint, which means that it meets the weighting ranges for each financial planning function, area, and level of complexity. Also, remember to consider that you are completing the practice exam in a setting which is different than the actual exam day experience. So the practice exam should not be considered a predictor of exam success. We suggest you open it up soon after purchase to ensure that there are no technical difficulties accessing the practice exam and answering its questions. We are often asked about study tips and the do's and the don'ts when it comes to preparing for and writing the exam. Naomi will now run through a few pointers to help improve your success in writing the CFP exam. Some of the tips do come from common mistakes that we have seen candidates make in the past.
The first problem concerns time management. Candidates sometimes overthink questions or spend too much time trying to answer the question. This is especially relevant for constructed response items where the mark allocation differs from question to question. You don't want to spend too much time answering a question worth 2 marks and then not have enough time to answer a question worth 7 marks. Another mistake can be giving more answers than required for the question. If a question asks to provide 3 concerns relevant to the client situation, please only provide 3 concerns. Any extra responses will not be marked whether or not they are correct. Also remember, this is a timed exam, so giving more answers than required will take up valuable writing time. And finally, something we refer to as knowledge dump. This can occur when candidates are unsure of the correct answer and put down everything they can think of with the hope that something will stick and earn them some marks. Again, this is not a very good strategy for a number of reasons. It takes more time to type in all of this information, and it does not demonstrate to the scorers that the candidate knows the correct answer. Also, the scorers are only marking the first answer provided. The other information is not considered. Here are some useful tips to help with effective time management. Manage your time carefully and have a plan. Be aware of the time available for you to complete each session of the exam. Review the number of questions in each exam session and the marks assigned to them. Each multiple choice question is worth 1 mark. You might want to consider getting your marks first by answering as many possible and bookmarking the questions that take more time to answer so you can come back to them. A summary of the constructed response questions and their mark allocation is provided as a resource in the software. This summary helps you to be mindful of the marks assigned for each question and an awareness of your planned time allotment per question. The exam software will allow you to move to any question within your 2-hour exam session, so you are able to answer them in a different order. And again, answer what is being asked. If the question asks for 3 advantages for a particular strategy, then provide just 3 advantages. We already spoke about the CFP exam being a competency-based assessment, meaning we are testing your use of knowledge in addressing clients' financial planning issues. That means a correct response needs to address the client's needs and objectives. Marks are not earned when the answers provided are not relevant to the client scenario presented. All information needed to answer the questions is given in the case scenario, and you are to work within the set of facts presented. There is no reason to add information or to make assumptions. No marks are given if the answers provided are general in nature and not client-specific. You need to provide solutions that are specific to the client situation. For example, what is it about the strategy that is appropriate for this client's particular situation or objectives? No marks are given if the answers provided focus on product features as opposed to client benefits. For example, in a question assessing suitable insurance solutions for the client, You need to present how this insurance option is appropriate for the clients to meet their needs. If you simply list the features of the insurance policy without tying them back to the client's needs, no marks will be given. So always keep the client in mind. Responses are to be based on the facts presented in the case. You need to work with the information given. For multiple choice questions, 4 options are provided. Keep in mind the client's stated goals or objectives. The 3 incorrect options are plausible and could apply in a different situation, but are not the most appropriate solution for this particular client scenario. For constructed response questions, ensure answers always relate back to the scenarios presented and that they are appropriate for that client situation. In some cases, an unsuitable response may involve issues around ethics and professional standards. For example, the client may have a low investment risk tolerance, so a switch to equity investments to help improve the rate of return would not be a suitable option for this client. Questions will ask you to provide a strategy or recommendation and explanation as to why it is appropriate for the client's particular situation. It's all about using knowledge to arrive at client-specific solutions. We wanted to provide an example to help illustrate this point, since a lot of marks are missed by candidates because the answer given is too generic and has not recognized the specific details of the client's circumstances. You need to take that extra step and identify why this is important or relevant to the client. This simplified scenario features Todd, who is retiring early due to health problems. He is a conservative investor and needs to make a decision about his pension, either select a pension benefit or transfer the commuted value. If he transfers the commuted value amount to a locked-in plan, investment risk is a consideration for him, as it would be for anyone. So, if the response simply states that he will assume the investment risk, no mark would be given because we asked specify why the consideration is relevant to Todd's situation. And this response would apply for everyone. However, if the answer goes a step further and is expanded to include details about his investor profile and comfort in assuming this level of investment responsibility, or his ability to earn a return to provide an equal or higher benefit to the pension option, then marks would be awarded because the candidate recognized the specific client details that are relevant to his decision. The post-retirement health benefits would also be a consideration for him in his pension decision. They will continue with the selection of the pension option. But again, this would apply to everyone, so no mark is given if this is the extent of the answer. Again, the question asked why the considerations are relevant to the client. So what is it about the post-retirement health benefits that make this consideration especially relevant to Todd? It is his own health problems that make this an important consideration for him. If the answer is expanded to include this information, then the mark would be given. Make sure your recommendations or explanations recognize that the individual client circumstances, identify them, and state how they are relevant to the personal planning for the client. Although this next point seems very obvious, it is surprising how many candidates provide a response that does not answer the question. For example, the question may ask to identify financial planning concerns of the client, but the candidate may provide an answer which provides recommendations. This response has not answered the question which asked only to identify concerns, and so would earn no marks. For multiple choice questions, candidates may select an answer without reading the entire question and miss relevant information. Often the question requires candidates to identify the most appropriate action, so it is important to read all of the details to be able to select the most suitable one based on the client needs. Sometimes candidates may add or assume information from outside the scenario and include it as part of their answers. For example, if the question asks to ignore inflation, then there's no need to try to factor it in. Please remember all of the information you need to answer the question is already provided. For constructed response questions, sometimes candidates will be asked if a particular strategy will meet the client's needs. Rather than providing and supporting a definitive yes or no recommendation, candidates provide an answer which gives why the strategy could be both suitable and unsuitable. With this type of response, they have not presented a viable solution and will get no marks for this type of answer. They have not demonstrated that they can provide the client with a clear and distinct recommendation.
So always read the scenario and questions carefully. Please ensure your response answers the questions. In developing the exam, we pay attention to word count, so all of the facts given are relevant, and everything candidates need to answer the question is provided. So be sure to assess all the information presented in the question. Also recognize that some questions are more basic and straightforward and might be easier to answer, so avoid overthinking these ones. Questions are developed and written in plain language and only include information that is needed to arrive to the correct solution. We never try to trick candidates with our questions. We are looking to assess competency in financial planning tasks. Candidates will also have to be concise in their answers. When asked to make a specific recommendation and support it, then that is what the answer should do. We are looking to assess the ability to give a distinct solution and provide the client with a suitable recommendation.
All the materials we've discussed today and more are available at the FP Canada website as linked on this page. This concludes the webinar. Thank you for your time. Please visit the website fpcanada.ca and go to your dashboard to access the sample exam questions or to purchase the CFP exam practice exam if you haven't done so already. If you have any questions about the exam, please email us at info@fpcanada.ca and we will respond. We would like you to remind you to refer to the guide to the CFP exam and our website, as it likely addresses many of the questions and concerns that you might have. Enjoy the rest of your day.